Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth responding. The embattled Defense Secretary just spoke, seeming to attack some of his closest former advisors and the media after we learned overnight that he shared detailed military plans in a second Signal chat. This one included his wife and his brother. Let's get right to CNN's Natasha Bertrand in Washington for the latest on all these very new, very significant developments.
Good morning, John. Yes, we confirmed last night that Secretary Hegseth did have a second Signal chat that included his brother, his wife, and his lawyer, in which he disclosed sensitive details about U.S. military operations against the Houthis in Yemen. This was around the same time as that first Signal chat that was disclosed last month, when the editor of The Atlantic was accidentally included in a Signal chat that Hegseth had with other cabinet officials. This, of course, is different. It was on his personal phone, and we are told that this was a group chat that was set up as part of his confirmation process so he could kind of strategize with his closest allies. But he continued using that chat, we are told, after he was confirmed as Secretary of Defense, and ultimately he did end up sharing information about military plans with the people on that chat, many of whom, including his wife, did not have an obvious need to know about these military operations. Now, Hegseth did issue his first public comments about this just a few minutes ago from the White House at the Easter egg roll.
This is what the media does. They take anonymous sources from disgruntled former employees, and then they try to slash and burn people and ruin their reputations. Not going to work with me, because we're changing the Defense Department, putting the Pentagon back in the hands of warfighters, and anonymous smears from disgruntled former employees on old news doesn't matter.
So two things, John. First, neither Parnell, his spokesperson, Sean Parnell, his spokesperson, nor Hegseth there are actually denying the substance of the story, that he did have this Signal group chat that included his wife, his brother, and his lawyer. They are instead blaming it on disgruntled former employees, which is the second point here. Dan Caldwell and Darren Selnick, two of the officials that Hegseth fired last week, they actually were some of Hegseth's closest advisors over a decade. And one of the officials that left the Pentagon last week, John Olliott, who was until last month Hegseth's top spokesperson, he is saying publicly in a new op-ed that he wrote in Politico last night that it's been a month of total chaos at the Pentagon. And he said it's hard to see Defense Secretary Hegseth remaining in his role for much longer. John?
Yeah, that statement from the secretary right there in the immortal words of Ben Bradley and All the President's Men, a classic denial right there at the White House. Natasha Bertrand, thank you very much. Kate?
And just looking down, as he said, returning the Pentagon to warfighters, John Olliott actually said in the past month, what they have been going through is not returning the Pentagon to warfighting, but just it says the Pentagon focus is no longer on warfighting, but on endless drama. That from his former spokesperson. Joining us right now to talk more about this is Jane Harman, the former ranking member of the House Intelligence Committee. Thank you so much for being here. I mean, I recall you saying after the first Signal scandal broke that it should remind everyone that complacency invites catastrophe, and now news of a new Signal group chat and new controversy. What's your reaction to this?
Well, this would be a good news day to accept Hegseth's resignation. I mean, all the news is about this extraordinary pope that we just lost, and so it might be buried. I can't imagine how he survives this. His key staff, as you just reported, has been fired by him. Some of them were on the second call. There are rumors that there may have been as many as 20 calls on unsecured platforms. I mean, that is, I don't know what you call it, tradecraft 00.1. You don't do this. And I can't imagine that Congress will defend him at this point. I wonder if the president will defend him. He's embarrassing the president. So I think there are two questions. One is when he resigns, but the second one is who will accept the job, who is really competent, given this history and given the chaos at the Pentagon. Let's just look at what Marco Rubio said. He just said that this draft executive order taking away half his department, this draft executive order was in the news the last 2 days, is fake news. So what this looks like is cabinet secretaries don't make decisions. They are made somewhere else, Project 2025 or who knows. And I can't imagine that the capable people out there who are Republicans who could run the Pentagon would want the job.
One thing we know, the latest this morning, is coming from the White House press secretary saying that the president still has full faith in Pete Hegseth. We know with the president that can change quickly, but that is the first response from them on this latest Signal chat. On top of this, you have a top advisor until basically days ago of Pete Hegseth, a former Pentagon press secretary for Hegseth, calling this whole thing a month of chaos. This is this op-ed that Natasha Bertrand was just referencing, and two parts I want to pull out. Number one, saying it's hard to see Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth remaining in his role much longer, to the point that you were making. And also this, even strong backers of the secretary like me, this is from John Uliad, me must admit the last month has been a full-blown meltdown at the Pentagon and is becoming a real problem for the administration. And just from your perspective, what does it do when a secretary's longtime advisor, his deputy chief of staff, the chief of staff to the deputy secretary of defense, they all get pushed out of the Pentagon in the midst of all of this?
Well, I recently chaired the Commission on National Defense Strategy. We said unanimously, 4 Democrats, 4 Republicans, that this is the most dangerous time in terms of national security since 1945. If I were any one of America's enemies looking at our country, I would think, this is my opportunity to do any number of things. Think massive cyber attack in the U.S. I worry a lot that we could have a cyber 9/11 any day. We've already, in the Pentagon, fired the well-qualified 34-year in the military, 4-star head of the National Security Agency, who also headed U.S. Cyber Command. Just pick that one thing. And most of the qualified women at the top, too, who are doing excellent jobs, including being 4-star members of the military as well. Got to put that in. And so if I'm China, Russia, anywhere, I think I've got open season on the U.S. And look at what Russia's doing in Ukraine. Russia is toying with the United States and obviously toying with Ukraine. And it is an absolute tragedy to see a place which was invaded in violation of international law after Russia promised repeatedly to respect its sovereignty, suffering this way. Ukraine is still fighting back. Europe is going to step up and fight for Ukraine. But now that we have a casual comment from, I think it's our vice president, that we may not continue to pay attention to Ukraine, I think that's hugely damaging and really threatens U.S. national security in another way.
Yeah, the Secretary of State Marco Rubio saying on Friday, if it is not possible to end the war in Ukraine, we need to move on, and then more from there. Jane, it's great to see you. Thank you so much for coming in, as always. I really appreciate your time.